Today I'm sitting down with Dr. Elina Berglund Scherwitzl from Natural Cycles and Dr. Heather Woolery-Lloyd from Nutrafol to talk about the deep connection between hormones and hair health through our various life stages. I'm so excited to have you both here.
Thank you so much for having me.
Yeah, thank you for having me. We're very excited.
I know both of you, but I think our audience would love to kind of have a little bit of an intro. If you can just kind of tell me a bit about yourself and what you focus on.
I'm Heather Woolery-Lloyd. I'm a board-certified dermatologist based in Miami, and I'm also the chief medical advisor for Nutrafol.
And I'm Elina Berglund Scherwitzl. I'm the co-founder and co-CEO of Natural Cycles.
I know both of you spent a long time in school, obviously, leading up to your careers today. I'm kind of curious what you were most excited to put into practice or kind of how it got you to your career today.
For me, I'm a physicist. I did a PhD. Well, first I studied physics engineering at university. Then I did a PhD in particle physics at CERN, the particle accelerator, and then also a postdoc where we discovered the Higgs particle, which led to Nobel Prize. And a lot about that is really about data, algorithms, statistical analysis. And that's truly my passion. And that's kind of what I get to apply now to natural cycles and all things women's health. So it's a very different topic than physics, obviously, but
Hmm.
it's still like figuring things out and innovation and understanding truly the data, published clinical studies and research. So I still get to do all the fun stuff that I was passionate about also in my youth.
And I'm a board-certified dermatologist, and I'm also board-certified in a specialty called lifestyle medicine, which focuses on how lifestyle influences chronic diseases. And I've been a practicing dermatologist for over 20 years and have treated a lot of hair disorder, a lot of hair and scalp disorders.
Hmm.
So it was a very natural transition for me to assume this new role as the chief medical advisor at Nutrafol because it's a company that's focused on science and research when it comes to hair health.
And did you both kind of know that you always wanted to do this? I know you kind of just spoke, it was a natural fit. Do you feel like you kind of found your career path along the way, or was it something that you knew well before you got into this?
I would say for me, it was a very natural transition. I love research. I love educating the public. That's a huge part of what I do. I spend a lot of time on social media talking about common hair and skin concerns. So, in my role as chief medical advisor, I will be doing a lot of public education, was something I absolutely love to do. So, for me, it was a completely natural transition.
For me, I wanted to be a physicist since I was like 5 years old, and I was looking into the night sky. I wanted to understand Big Bang and black holes and gravity and all these things. What was surprising to me though was actually that I left physics. That I hadn't anticipated,
Mhm.
but I feel like I stumbled upon this problem that I was in need of a natural, non-invasive birth control method, and there wasn't one on the market. But I created the algorithm first just to use myself, and then realized that this is a huge unmet need, and therefore we created the Natural Cycles app. But that I had never anticipated. It was a career change that was a surprise to me as well.
Today, we're going to talk a lot about perimenopause, which I don't know if it's my algorithm, but it's been showing up a lot for me in the news and media. So I'm kind of curious from both of you. For me, I didn't really even know perimenopause was a thing until probably 6 months ago. But I'm kind of curious what your first exposure to perimenopause, menopause was like.
Well, I learned about menopause in medical school, but I think what's changed recently is, as you said, it's really becoming something that we speak more openly about, and that perimenopause affects so many women. And I
Mhm.
think even though I learned about it in medical school, I would say that my awareness has increased so much more dramatically in the last, I would say, 2 to 3 years. And I think it's a welcome change because it's something that no one would talk about. It was something that was kind of hidden. Women didn't talk about these changes and this life stage. So I welcome it. I think it's great.
I learned about menopause through my mom because I remember her going through it. And I'm grateful now that she was kind of open about it. She would just, like, if we were in a restaurant, she would just like tell everyone at the table, okay, now it's happening. It's happening. I'm getting a hot flash. And I'm glad she was open about it because indeed it's a topic that has been very stigmatized and very taboo.
Mhm.
And with Natural Cycles, it's been on our product roadmap for so many years because it's been obvious to us that here is a place where we can continue our mission and empowering women with understanding what's going on in their bodies and with their hormones.
Mhm.
And menopause and perimenopause is kind of the next step of that, because we follow women over a long time and we see how their cycles change, how their hormones change. So it's something we've had on our roadmap, I want to say, for like 5 or 6 years. But finally, we had the opportunity to actually develop it, do the clinical studies behind it, develop the product in the last couple of years, and actually launching it last week, which is very, very exciting for us.
Medical school, do you feel like they talked a lot about perimenopause, or was it kind of a quick paragraph in a chapter and that was
I
it?
don't think they spoke much about it. In fact, I went to medical school over 20 years ago,
Mhm.
and it was not a focus at all. In fact, in that rotation we did OBGYN, the focus was on childbirth and maybe the period of time when women are having periods and so forth. And I don't feel like we talked much at all about perimenopause and menopause in medical school.
Mhm.
Now, that could just be because of what I was exposed to, but I definitely think there has been this huge trend and a welcome trend to talk more openly about menopause. And maybe patients didn't volunteer. They might have been embarrassed to talk about these symptoms when, let's say, in a primary care clinic. Whereas I feel like now it's so open, it's such a welcome change where women feel very comfortable talking about the changes that they have later in life.
And Elena, I guess why now for natural cycles? What was kind of the deciding factor for perimenopause?
Well, as I mentioned, we've had like a proof of concept that we wanted to develop in the last 5 6 years, but we wanted to transition to measure with wearables during the night rather than measuring with the thermometer when you wake up, to measure temperature and therefore like understand where an ovulation is happening. And temperature is really a proxy for progesterone, which warms the body after
Mhm.
ovulation happens. And we feel like since perimenopause on average takes 7 years in a woman's lifetime,
Mhm.
and it changes more slowly, this is something that you need a easy user experience. So sleeping with a wearable is easier than remembering to measure when you wake up in the morning. So
Mhm.
we've kind of been waiting for that transition to happen first.
And I know you recently wrote an article about your experience with perimenopause. What were kind of the subtle changes that you noticed that made you kind of think that you might be in it?
Yeah, it's funny because even though I've been working so much on perimenopause the last year or so, I hadn't realized that I myself was going through it until I saw it myself in the Natural Cycles app.
Mhm.
So when I finally had the test version and I could, integrate my own Natural Cycles account, it gave me that I'm in early perimenopause, and then I was like, ah, this makes so much sense. But I
Mhm.
hadn't really believed it until then. But indeed, like I can definitely tell that I'm in this early phase of perimenopause where progesterone is getting lower, but estrogen is still in a at normal levels. Because, for instance, my cycles are getting shorter. I'm having spotting before and after periods. Like sleep is getting harder. Anxiety levels go up. But I'm still having like my ovulation regularly, and like I'm not having hot flashes yet, and these other symptoms that happen when estrogen starts to
Yeah.
go erratic and decline.
And I see, Dr. Lloyd, you're nodding your head a lot. Have you had an experience with perimenopause? What is that kind of like for you?
Definitely went through all of the things that you said. I'm a little further along, but so I am at the time period where my periods are more irregular, but I definitely have hot flashes and lots of changes sometimes in energy. It can go both ways because when I was had heavy periods, so I was very anemic. So now I'm less anemic. So that's one positive thing. But I definitely noticed these changes, I'd say over the last 4 to 5 years. And even though I'm a doctor, a lot of them were new to me. I was
Mhm.
surprised at the changes, and we don't, again, until recently, didn't talk openly about these things. So it was interesting for me to experience it as a physician.
I do our social, so I'm in communication with a lot of our users at Natural Cycles, and I think a lot of women feel that they're just kind of losing control of their body a bit. So I'm kind of curious from both of you in going through this time in your life, what tools are you using to kind of get back in touch with your body?
Well, obviously natural cycles.
Yes.
But that is why we developed it,
Right.
because I do feel like if women can understand what's going on, and are these symptoms related to perimenopause, are they not, and then they will get the control back. They then know what's going on with their hormones, and they can also know what to expect of the future. And I think the Natural Cycles app is doing a good job educating the women, because it's it's a lot of information. It's not information we pick up elsewhere until now, at least. So
Mhm.
guiding a woman through what's happening right now and what to expect of the future with their hormones, with their symptoms, with the cycles, I think is really important. And at least it makes me feel more in control and calm. And I know what's going to happen, and I'm okay with that.
Dr. Lloyd, do you have any tips or tricks that you use?
Well, I would say as a physician, probably one of the most common things women complain to me in this time period is changes in their hair and hair thinning.
Mhm.
I look at the patient holistically. I look at my patients holistically and I talk about all things. So, lifestyle, stress management, and nutritional supplements, which can address hair thinning, which is probably one of the most common complaints I see in my practice in women going through perimenopause is hair thinning and changes in their skin. So, I always make sure I address that issue for my patients. And there are things you can do. There are like lifestyle and trying to manage stress because I think perimenopause just happens to happen at a time when women are probably the busiest they are in their lives.
Mm.
And so stress management, I think, is a big part of it. And I do think supplements can play a role in helping hair thinning for women who are going through perimenopause.
If you can speak a little bit, I'm kind of curious about the hormones specifically. Like,
Yes.
what hormones are impacting hair at this time?
So when you go through perimenopause, there's a relative androgen dominance, and androgen are like the male hormones. And so when you have that relative dominance of the male hormones, you have this predisposition to hair thinning because that can cause thinning of the hair follicles over time. So not only can you have shedding with changes in estrogen and progesterone that we see with hormonal changes, but also with perimenopause specifically, you can have this androgen dominance, and that can cause thinning of those hair follicles over time.
And how much of it would you say is hormones versus hairstyling and nutrition?
It really depends on the patient.
Okay.
So when someone comes in to see me, I get a full history and get a better understanding of what could be causing their hair thinning. But one of
Mhm.
the things that I see with hormone related thinning is widening of the hair part.
Mm.
So patients, that's the most common thing they'll say is my hair part is getting wider. It tends to be hair loss on the front of the scalp versus diffuse, which we see with the general hair thinning. Stress related hair thinning tends to be more diffuse. The hormonal related hair thinning is on the front of the scalp and is characterized by that widening of the part.
And genetics, do genetics play a role in either whether you see it more in the parting or just how your hair is changing? Like, are you gonna have the same experience as your mom or grandmother?
You're not necessarily going to have the same experience, but I do always
Mhm.
ask about family history.
Okay.
And genetics can definitely play a role because people can be predisposed to hair thinning. But I also don't want people to think that if they have this genetic predisposition that it's all over. You know, there are many things you can do. You can use nutritional supplements, you can change your lifestyle. There are certain things you can do that can help with thinning. So even though genetics can play a role, I don't want people to think that oh, it's inevitable and I'm going to just thin and there's nothing I can do about it. There are many actionable things that you can do.
And Elena, I know you love data. So I'm kind of curious to know with NC Perimenopause, what are you most excited to see in kind of the hormone shifts that we're going to have with this mode now?
Women's health in general is so under researched and underfunded, and yeah. But perimenopause is maybe the most under researched. Like if you look at how many uh, clinical studies have been published on pregnancy versus
Mhm.
perimenopause, is a huge difference. And I feel like with our product and with our users' consent, we're also going to get all new insights that we can, publish, and that will make a difference for the future. Because if we can truly understand perimenopause, because I don't think we have yet,
Right.
then we can make a difference.
And just in general, too, do we feel like kind of doctors are ready to have these conversations yet?
I think my colleagues are.
Yeah.
I think
Okay.
I am around a very progressive group of doctors who are really try to stay up to date with perimenopause and really being up to date on what interventions that we can do to help our patients.
Mhm.
And when it comes to hair thinning, like I mentioned, Nutrafol is a really great option because it really addresses all of these different things that can influence hair thinning, like hormones and stress. It has ingredients to address all of those. So my colleagues, I feel like, are up to date, but I might have a special group of friends. I don't know.
Yeah, yeah, I think it is very individualized, so it's
Yes.
hard to know. Can you speak a little bit, to what is in the Nutrafol supplements that do help support this kind of change in hair?
So for the hormonal balance, there are ingredients like saw palmetto and
Mhm.
maca, and both of those help to balance hormones, which is a big part of perimenopausal thinning. And then we talked about stress. One of those, like I said, in perimenopause, stress is so common. We're at a very stressful time in our lives, and an ingredient like ashwagandha can help balance stress. So it has many different ingredients, but those are some of the ingredients that specifically address this kind of whole health approach to hair thinning.
Mhm.
So it's something that I use in my practice all the time, and I've seen great results in my patients.
Is there a direct impact with hormonal birth control? Or, I know we have, non-hormonal birth control, but something like the pill, do you ever see a correlation with that, with maybe more hair loss, less?
So it really depends on the type of hormonal birth control it is. So there are
Mhm.
some that are more estrogen dependent and some that are more progesterone dependent. The ones that are estrogen dependent don't tend to really impact hair thinning, except
Mhm.
that when you stop or change birth control, you can see a change in hair. So hair thinning after stopping. And then the ones that are more progesterone dependent, yes, you can see hair thinning with those types of hormonal birth control.
For natural versus, maybe surgically induced menopause, I know that sometimes can happen, or maybe there's, like, after birth or something kind of more traumatic. Um, are we tracking that in the Natural Cycles app? And kind of do you see any changes in practice, with women who do come in with that too?
Well, I'll say with surgical menopause, it's very
Mhm.
abrupt. I
Okay.
remember a patient told me who had her ovaries removed. Her first hot flash was in the hospital.
Oh,
Can
wow.
you imagine? Like, so it's very, very abrupt. So I do think with perimenopause that's not surgical, it's more gradual over time, like you described with your own personal experience. With surgical menopause, it's very abrupt and the changes are rapid, and it can be very difficult for patients to adjust.
And then in tracking your temperature, I know you have been doing that for a very long time. So I'm kind of curious to know, just having all that data on your body over time, how has that helped you kind of get to this point too?
Well, tracking temperature really unlocks a lot of insights that then are very powerful. So, like,
Mhm.
it unlocks understanding when you ovulate. And if you know when you ovulate, you know so much more. It can be about PCOS, for instance. But if we now stick to the perimenopause, what happens usually is like in the beginning of early perimenopause, when your progesterone declines, you tend to have a shorter luteal phase, which is the time between ovulation and your next period, which is also when you have high progesterone and your body gets warmer. So you might see a smaller temperature rise, but the whole time period also gets shorter.
Mhm.
But what progesterone also does is that it prevents the next ovulation from happening. So what can also then happen is that you ovulate earlier in the next cycle because you had less of that progesterone. But really, like, measuring your temperature is key to so many things. Like, obviously, also when you're sick,
Right.
but it really maps out your cycle, which is also a vital sign, as many say.
Sometimes people just have thinner hair kind of their whole life too, or irregular cycle. So how do you kind of know, aha, like now I'm really entering perimenopause and it's not just business as usual?
I've had thin hair my whole life, so I'm like terrified it will get worse.
Well, I was just about to say, so if you people who have generally thin hair, they might notice more thinning with
Oh
perimenopause,
no.
definitely. But there is something you can do. Like I said, hair supplements like Nutrafol are great to address these hormonal changes and the thinning that happens with age.
Mhm.
So typically patients who have thin hair might notice more thinning with age, unfortunately.
Ah.
And then I'm curious, kind of, again, a question for both of you. now that it does seem like people are really talking more about perimenopause and menopause, what are you both excited, kind of what the future looks like here?
Well, I'm really excited that we're talking about menopause. Like, this is great that we're all sitting here today talking openly about menopause and the things that happen when women go through perimenopause and menopause. In my practice, I find that patients are ashamed,
Mhm.
thinning hair. Everyone always wants to hide that their hair is thinning, or they don't think everyone else is going through this, because what patients don't realize is everyone is hiding their thinning hair, and their changes that are happening with perimenopause. So having open conversations is what I'm most excited about, and that there are solutions like Nutrafol that can help to address hair thinning. So that's something that's very exciting to me, because as a woman in this exact stage of life, I'm so happy that it's happening now. And, I didn't go through this 10 or 15 years ago when everything was hush hush and nobody talked about it. So to me, it's a very exciting time.
And natural cycles, and also personally, I'm excited about kind of changing the way we see things for our second half of our lives, because we're
Mm.
going to be in menopause or perimenopause about half of our life, right? So I think it used to be that you're ashamed because you feel like your fertility is gone, you're getting old, life's kind of over. But it's not true. We have this amazing second half left. And I feel like we can still be amazing, strong, beautiful women in this
Mm.
part as well. And that's something I would like to change.
Has your daughter been curious about this?
We do talk about all things women's health at home. And just this weekend, actually, my son again asked me for, like, can we have another baby? When are we going to have another baby? I want to be a big brother. He's 6 years old. And I'm so into perimenopause right now. So I try to explain to him, well, my progesterone is low. I don't think it will work. He's like, Mom, it will work. Just try. I think it's fine. I'm like, I don't think it is fine. And anyway, I'm happy with my two children. I don't
Uh-huh.
want more.
I guess just the general narrative. I know you've talked a lot about kind of the taboo. How do you hope to see that change?
Like I said, these types of discussions are so important, of women speaking openly.
Mhm.
I think this type of open discussion, there's never enough, because I think that women might not be exposed, might not be on the right channel at the right time. So the more that it's out there and the more that we speak about it, I feel that women will understand that this is completely normal, first of all,
Mhm.
and it's normal to have all of these changes, and also understanding how to address them, because it's one thing to recognize that, hey, all of these changes are normal, but there are things that you can actually do that can address the things that are bothering you. In my practice, probably it's hair thinning. That's the most common complaint for women who come to see a dermatologist for perimenopausal complaints. And there are things that you can do, like nutritional supplements, and Nutrafol is a really great option for my patients. And it's very empowering, because women are so connected to their hair. It's a
Mhm.
huge part of their identity. So having the opportunity to address this concern is so impactful to me
Mhm.
and to my patients.
We had a couple of people ask about nails. How does perimenopause shift with your nails? Do they become thinner, brittle?
Common complaint would be thinning nails, brittle nails, splitting of the nails,
Mm.
peeling of the nails. So it is something that women often report with perimenopause, and just with age, as all people, as they get older, there are nail changes, just like our skin and our hair. You can see these changes in the nails too.
And I guess kind of a selfish question, does painting nails have an impact on, if you kind of do it a lot, is it better to let them breathe? Is that a thing?
It is a thing, yes.
Okay.
I saw during COVID, a lot of people stopped painting their toenails and they got much healthier. I will
Okay.
say that. So, obviously painting your nails is a form of self-expression, and you want to do something that you enjoy. But yes, if you have a nail disorder, like thinning, brittle nails, splitting nails, peeling nails, nail polish can damage a nail, so you have to look for nail polishes that are less damaging.
Mhm.
So, ideally, yes, it would be ideal for you to give your nails some time to breathe, if that's a complaint.
Yeah, yeah.
And what happens to the skin during perimenopause?
So the most common thing that my patients will complain of is dry skin. That's
Mm,
probably the most common complaint. The skin gets
Mhm.
drier as we get older. And then, of course, fine lines and wrinkles, change in volume. We lose a lot of our collagen as we age. So there's a change in the volume of the skin, separate from the fine lines and wrinkles, just the volume of how the face looks. So those are probably the most common complaints. But dryness is a big one.
Elena, can you speak to kind of what users can track in the app outside of the temperature? I know we have our B1, but for skin and nails, what can people kind of check those patterns as things change?
So if you're in perimenopause mode, in addition to, um, what we automatically track through the wearable and the
Mhm.
cycle we map out from that, you can also track, yeah, changes in hair and skin. We also have a daily check-in on, how you're feeling, your energy levels, your mood. You can track, all kinds of symptoms related to your cycle, like bloating, ovulation pain, for instance, cramps. There's a lot of different things that you can track, and you can also then visualize this over time and in correlation with your cycles, so you can kind of map out yourself. But in addition to that, we also have like an AI analysis where you get little snippets of insights every day based on the data you track. So you can, draw your own conclusions, but we also do that for you.
And then, kind of beyond the obvious of it being NC perimenopause, what separates it from the other modes in the app?
Helping you know where you are in perimenopause. So we have the stage assessment that tells you if you're in perimenopause or not, which it's hard for women to know. And if
Mhm.
you are, if you're in early, mid, or late perimenopause, or are you already in menopause?
Mhm.
But then you also have these extra symptoms that you can track and see how those change over time.
Okay.
So in our birth control, planned pregnancy modes, you can also track things like your mood, etc. But there are some trackers that are not there, like for instance, your hot flashes and
Okay.
more perimenopause specific trackers.
And in the app, you can download a report to bring to your doctor. So, Dr. Lloyd, I'm curious if a patient came in with an NC report, what would you be looking for?
Well, I love that. And you mentioned that they can track changes in their hair and their nails and their skin. So I would love that because first of all, anything where you talked about loss of control earlier, and
Mhm.
people are happiest when they feel the most in control. So even though they're just documenting, that's something that gives the patient a sense of control. Now, from my perspective, why that's exciting is if I wanted to start a supplement like Nutrafol, which would be a good option for women in perimenopause, she could track changes in her hair. Usually you see a change in like the thickness of the hair in around 3 months, but you see the maximum effects at around 6 months with a hair supplement. So that's really helpful because I could set expectations and say, listen, you're going to see some results in around 3 months, but you'll see the best results at around 6 months. And I love that your app can track that because then they can remember, oh, Dr. Woolery told me that, it's a marathon, not a race. So I think it's helpful. I love tech. I love anything that um, gives patients an opportunity to be involved and active in their healthcare journey. So I think it's great. I would be happy to get it.
Is there gonna be anything kind of new that you can add to it that we haven't had in the past with NC perimenopause?
Yeah, I think one important aspect of the report that we generate for women to bring to their doctor is
Mhm.
for perimenopause specifically. It's hard for the doctor to understand if a woman is in perimenopause, where in perimenopause, what's going on with her hormones. Because even if you do blood work, you see where the hormones at that day. So it's kind of like a snapshot. But in perimenopause, your hormones, they're really fluctuating all the time. So what natural cycles does is like really track what's going on over time with your hormones. And that's what we also put in the report that you can share with your doctor. And that really facilitates the discussion. A doctor will hopefully be like, oh, I can see that these symptoms you have are related to perimenopause and you're probably in mid perimenopause or whatever. And then it all makes sense both for you and your doctor. And then you can talk about what makes sense for you then to have as next steps, maybe hormone therapy, maybe improving your lifestyle with diet, sleep, and exercise. Either way, this conversation with your doctor gets much easier if you both understand what's going on inside your body with the hormones.
If I was coming in today and kind of wanted to start that conversation, what are some good thought starters?
Well, the questions that my patients do come in with, like, their stack of questions, so I can
Yeah.
tell you the types of things that I get asked, and,
Mhm.
one of the main concerns are the changes in my hair and skin that occurs during perimenopause. Those are when you're coming to a dermatologist, that's what I see in my practice, and so the types of questions that I might ask a patient would be the pattern of hair loss. So is it focused on the front or is it diffuse? I would ask about a recent stressful event. Did you, other than the perimenopause, which on its own can influence hair thinning, major stressful events can also influence hair thinning. And so I take a history to get a better understanding of the root cause of their hair thinning and then develop my treatment plan based on my assessment. And I do many different things to manage hair thinning. It's a very big part of my practice. And Nutrafol is one of the things that I always use in my patients because it's very beneficial. It really works and it's a great adjunct for whatever else I might be doing for a patient who is having hair thinning.
And then with perimenopause and menopause being such a new conversation, how have you found the reception to be?
I've been talking to a lot of investors, journalists. We had this event with Kim Cattrall, who's kind of a menopause icon.
Yes.
But in general, very positive reception and a lot of curiosity. I was on with a journalist from Sweden yesterday, and interestingly, she had written an article about menopause, and she had interviewed like strong female leaders in the industry. And she found that they were happy to share their symptoms, but they still wanted to remain anonymous because there was still some shame and stigma there.
Mm.
So I thought that was actually very interesting.
Was it hard for you to talk about it in the recent article you did for Cycle Matters?
No, not really. I'm trying to embrace it
Okay.
and see it positively and, go in with my head high
Yeah.
and hope that many women will feel the same way.
And Dr. Woolery, how has your experience with it been? Did you feel kind of a stigma?
I haven't, but I think that it's because maybe my friends and the people I'm around and my patients were all very open about these changes,
Mm.
especially because the majority of my practice are women and the people who work in my practice are women. So everyone feels very comfortable sharing these types of changes. So I don't feel that stigma, but I can understand why it could be there, especially in certain cultures who might
Mhm.
not feel as open to talk about these symptoms. But for my friends and my patients, we feel very comfortable talking about, it's all online. You're always, you're scrolling along, there's jokes, it's fun. So I love that there's this very robust conversation. And in general, I think it has been destigmatized.
Yeah, on our social, we have a dedicated NC Perimenopause page now, and we definitely have that balance of education, but then also, the funnier kind of
Yes.
moments that are very real and relatable.
It's very important to be relatable and
Yeah,
talk about it openly. So it's like talking about any other topic that we could imagine that's popular online.
yeah. And now that NC Perimenopause is out in the world, have you gotten texts from friends that are excited to kind of talk about it, or?
Yeah, so many of my friends want to try it out and they all want to talk to me about like whether they're in perimenopause or not or if they think they are and yes, there's a lot of interest.
That's awesome. All right. Well, I could talk about this forever, but we do have to end. Thank you so much for your time, both of you. And yeah, I'm excited to share this with our audience.
Thank
Thank
you.
you.